Welcome to our channel, where we talk all things true crime. This video is for educational purposes based on public knowledge. We do give our opinions at the end, but please do your own research. We mean no disrespect for any mispronunciation of names or places. Let's get started.
In 1943, a group of 4 teenagers made a horrifying discovery in England. The group was poaching in Hagley Wood when they came across a skeleton inside a wych elm. This case has become one of the most intriguing unsolved cases. The phrase, "Who put Bella down the wych elm?" or "Who put Bella in the wych elm?" has been associated with this case.
The woman found became known as Bella. Her true identity has remained a mystery, and her death is estimated to have occurred in 1941 or earlier. The boys found her body on April 18, 1943, when one of them climbed the tree and found a human skull. The boys fled the wooded area and at first swore a pact of silence. But the youngest boy was so scared he told his dad. The authorities were contacted, and this led to the discovery of an almost complete skeleton with a shoe, clothing fragments, and a gold wedding ring.
The investigation had revealed the woman had been dead for at least 18 months. A pathologist, Professor James Webster, concluded that the woman was between the age of 35 to 40 and was placed in the tree when her body was still warm. She most likely died from suffocation. Fabric was found in her mouth. The authorities tried to identify her, but there was no luck matching her among the missing persons reports during World War II. Police contacted every dentist in the country, hoping to identify her by her teeth. After 6 months, they were no closer to identifying her or finding the killer.
Graffiti appeared across the region. Who put Bella down the wych elm? This suggested that someone knew more than they were letting on. The police tried to find the graffiti artist and then followed the trail to anyone who was known as Bella. Neither search was successful. The woman found in the wych elm apparently had come from nowhere and wasn't missed by anyone. 2 years later, Professor Margaret Murray became interested in the case. She theorized that the scattered hand bones could indicate a ritualistic murder known as the Hand of Glory. The press ran with this latest detail, and when a man was found in a nearby village pinned to the ground with a pitchfork, Professor Murray and Scotland Yard connected both cases and took the theory seriously. The press was further delighted.
In the early 1950s, the talk of witchcraft was taking hold of the public's imagination. A woman who called herself Anna contacted the police saying that she knew who killed Bella. She met with the police in secret, but the details of the meeting were leaked by a local journalist. Anna also sent the case in a new direction: espionage. Anna claimed that Bella was murdered by a German spy ring. She claimed it involved a British officer, a Dutchman, and a musician. This was considered highly plausible. The region was a target for Nazi intelligence gatherings. The public embraced this link between Hagley Wood murder and espionage. Police dismissed the talk of the occult and concluded that the finger bones had been scattered by animals, not a satanic coven. The investigation stalled again despite Anna's leads.
The case was back in the public's attention in 1968. Donald McCormick wrote about both murder cases in his book, Murder by Witchcraft. He claims that Bella was a Nazi spy and an occultist named Clarabella. Supposedly, this woman was well known by several senior Nazis, and her code name was Clara. McCormick claimed that he gained access to the records which indicated that she had parachuted into the West Midlands in 1941, but she had failed to make radio contact and disappeared. McCormick also claimed that at least one piece of graffiti referred not to Bella, but Clarabella. While this was entertaining, it didn't bring the case to a resolution.
This mystery has endured despite all of the continued interest. In 1999, The Independent revisited the story. By now, the official closure of the investigation and publication of the files were allowed to be re-examined. Around this time, wartime MI-15 files were declassified. In one of the files, there was an agent, Joseph Jacobs, who was arrested for parachuting into Cambridgeshire in January 1941. The part that got everyone excited was that the agent was carrying a photograph in his pocket of a woman. This woman was a cabaret singer and a German movie actress, Clara Bauer. Jacob said that Clara was his lover and that she was connected to senior Nazis. People thought it was strongly possible that Clara was Bella and that the mystery was finally solved.
While it's very interesting about Clara and McCormick's writings in the 1960s that were similar to quote-unquote Clara, there is no concrete evidence that Clara parachuted into England. Clara was also said to be around 6 feet tall, while Bella was 5 feet tall. It was also established that Clara died in Berlin on December 16, 1942. The case of who put Bella down the Wych Elm still remains elusive. So what do we think?
This has always been one of my favorite stories. I just think it's very interesting that it hasn't been solved. To me, it's hilarious, their speculations.
Oh my gosh, their speculations are so crazy. They jump from one extreme to another. To me, it sounded like conspiracy theories.
Yes.
Oh, it's witchcraft. It's a satanic cult.
It's espionage.
It's espionage. It's the regime. I just can't get over all the parachuting.
Yes, we've talked about that.
At first reading it, what?
Was this a common thing?
I guess they parachuted all the time back then, but now just hearing people parachuting into areas, people do it for a hobby now. We don't do it as a means of transportation.
Yeah, and I know they kept coming back to revisit the case. This was around when James Bond was coming out, and so I think the public definitely latched onto the spy aspect of it just because of movies and articles and books that are out. That's the great thing about humans. They have such great imaginations.
This is true. I can see why they would latch onto that with all of that coming out and being popular, especially the era that they lived in and what was going on in the world around them. I could see why they would think that could possibly be it.
Yes, and it's exciting. I mean, much more exciting than someone murdered her and drug her up there and stuffed her down it.
Yeah. But I don't think she went there willingly. The fact that she had fabric in her mouth, I just don't see that was an accident.
No. Again, it did happen so long ago, no one can really say. So after her death, they were studying her bones. And then at one point she was at a university or college, but then now I'm pretty sure they've lost the bones.
Yeah, I was online and I found a picture of someone holding her skull. It was super tiny. I could imagine that they were looking at it, trying to figure out cause of death. I mean, they said what, suffocation, possibly?
Yeah, possibly.
I'm sure being transferred to all these sites, and as new technology came out, they were like, oh, let's get those bones so we can test them. Mm-hmm. Whatever the case may be, they got lost in the process. They're not where they're supposed to be or where they were last, or possibly not even with the right label on them, because I know they label everything and there's case files attached to different evidence.
Oh, yeah.
So I assume just all the different transfers over the years, it got lost, which is really sad.
It really is sad. Possibly could have done DNA testing on it to see who her relatives could have been. I just love the whole, it must have been Satanist. The fingers and
thinking that they were somebody was doing a ceremony, a ritual.
The cops are like, no, it's from animals. That's the most logical conclusion.
That is out in the woods. Most logical, but
the animals are scavenging.
That lady Anna, she seemed like a liar.
I think she was just
trying to get 5 minutes,
just wanting to be in the public eye,
in the paper. Kind of like people do these days. They'll get their 5 minutes of fame on the internet. That's who she was. But back in the day, and it would have been in the newspaper.
Because Anna wasn't even her real name. That's just what she said her name was. That was the name she'd given for them to use, put in reports.
To try to remain anonymous.
Yes. So right there, kind of, you're a liar.
Then, like, everything was being leaked to the media. I'm pretty sure Anna was the one leaking it.
Yes.
Her private conversations with the police.
Yeah. It's definitely a wild case. It's still tragic and sad.
We'll never know.
We'll never know.
It'll remain a mystery. Yeah, because if she did parachute, why?
But where was the parachute?
And why did she parachute into those woods? What for?
Mm-hmm. They're like, she parachuted, but where's the actual parachute?
I'm not aware that it was found. There is a facial reconstruction image of her from her skull. I don't know if it was from pictures or
the actual
skull. However, it's a digital re-imaged facial reconstruction, whether that looks like her or not. But you can definitely see a very distinct smile. Her teeth were very distinct.
Yeah, and I think that's why they asked the dentist.
So if she was a local woman, you would think they would have been able to identify her. So she possibly wasn't from that area. So then the question is, what was she doing there?
Yeah, definitely interesting, especially the graffiti. I didn't know they did graffiti in the 40s.
Yeah, I didn't either.
But it was interesting because it wasn't just one location. It would pop up in different areas.
All over the country.
Yeah.
I was reading online, there was graffiti that had went up just as late as 2006.
Oh, really?
Is when it was spray painted again. However, they misspelled witch for Wych Elm. But
yeah,
it says who put Bella in the Wych Elm, and that was in '06. So it's still on people's minds. People still want to know.
Yes, it's just one of those very odd mysteries.
And tragic.
It's very tragic. I mean, because again, we don't know who she is, and then there's obviously zero clue on who killed her. I feel really bad for those boys.
The founder, that would be terrifying.
Yeah, put your hand down in a hole or something.
It says poaching, I think, for birds or eggs.
Maybe, but it was private land, and so they were on it, and that's why they weren't going to say anything.
Because they were trespassing and they didn't want to get in trouble.
I'm pretty sure it was the youngest boy that had found her.
Yeah.
And it terrified him. He was so scared. And so he told his dad. If you have to think about it like that, if they wouldn't have came across it, there's a good chance that nobody would even know.
No, not for a very long time, if ever, unless someone went to the tree, because she was deep in it.
Like,
and they had reached their hand into the tree.
Yeah, and I don't know many people that would just randomly do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I personally had never heard of this story, so it's very interesting. It's very sad, and I hope that wherever Bella's bones may be, that she can get some rest. It would be nice if they could be found and she could be laid to rest at some point. But I'm sure if they found them, they'd just continue to study them or put them on display.
Oh yeah, that happens, sadly.
So what do you guys think? Have you heard of this case? Let us know in the comments below.